Ever play Pin the Tail on the Donkey? Have you ever felt like when you're drawing faces, you're playing that game, but like with eyes and a nose and a mouth instead of a tail? Hopefully your face looks better than a butt, but that is besides the point. Same principle. If you've ever encountered this, I am here to give you advice. It's possible that you are unaware of the rules of the face. Now, the rules of the face aren't so much rules as they are guidelines, because there's always variations. Sometimes things will be closer together, sometimes they'll be further apart, and sometimes you'll want to break the rules on purpose. Otherwise, everything would look the exact same. And you might see this. You might see same face syndrome in your own work or in other people's work, and it's because they are not breaking the rules of the face. So remember that these are guidelines, not hard, fast rules. So when I'm discussing this, remember that they are just reference points. Think of them like anchor points. And the anchor points can move around a little bit, and you can choose when and where to use them. Basically, it's a really good point to get you started. And if you are finding yourself playing Pin the Tail on the Donkey on a face, this will help you. Let's discuss the landmarks of the face. Now, if I were to ask you point blank, what are the landmarks of the face? You might say something like the giant mole on the nose on my aunt's face. I mean, technically it's big enough it could be a landmark, but no, that's not what I mean. I mean the distance between the eyes, the nose, the forehead, the chin, the nose, the ear and the eyebrow. Those are the landmarks of the face and the reference points, which we will learn where those anchor today. I will use my own face to demonstrate this. All right, so I have my handy dandy eyeliner tool, which I will use to draw on my face. Now, first things first is my eyes are in the center of my head. So there is about as much space here as there is here. If I was to draw a line here, that would be about equal to the corners of my eyes. I could fit one more eye right between my face. I'm going to screenshot this and drag it in there so you can see. Did you see? The outside of my nostrils pretty much line up with the tear ducts of my face. The reason it rounds out like that is just because my skin proofs there. Now, another thing is, this space here pretty much equates this space here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eye widths to the face, at this point in particular. Another thing to note is that the eyebrows, that was a terrible line, holy. The eyebrows line up to the top of the eye. I'm just gonna do it this way. Eyebrow, see? See how that's a straight line? See how it hits the bottom of my eyebrow? That's another one. I have to look in the screen of the camera. Sorry if I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you. And another thing with the ear is the bottom lower lobe of the ear pretty much lines up perpendicularly to the bottom of the nose. So if I were to draw a line, it's like war paint. Cool. We have a line here that reaches just above the turning point of our jaw. And that's because it's a pivot point for our bones. So now you'll notice that my face is divided into 3 equal parts. This distance is equal to this distance, is equal to this distance. The distance between my eyes is equal to the distance of my eyes, and on the sides you can fit one more eye on either side. Fun little fact, if you're ever wondering how big to make your hands of a character, it's about as big as your face from chin to hairline. Oh, and one more thing that I didn't tell you yet is, see the corner of my mouth here, if I was to look straight ahead and draw a line from my pupils down to the corners of my mouth, we have a straight line. So once again, let's go over that. The landmarks of the face. Let's start with the most basic one. First things first is our eyes are in the center of our head. Now, from hairline to brow, to bottom of nose to chin, it's all in equal thirds. 1, 2, 3. We can fit one eye in between the eyes, so that should be equidistant apart. You can just take the measurement of one of your eyes, stick it in between here, and you know that your eyes are far enough apart. Similarly, you should be able to fit one of those eyes here to make sure that your eyes are not pushing too far against the side of the face. The width of the mouth can be determined by the linear line coming from the pupil straight down. And the point of the tear duct / the width of the nose can be defined by this line. Of course, the ear can be determined by looking at the brow as well as the bottom of the nose. So there we go, guys. That is the realistic proportions of a face. However, you might be like, Andrea, you don't ever draw in these proportions. And I'm like, I know I don't, because I have a stylized method. Don't judge me. So I'm gonna give you a quick little rundown of how I do the proportions on a stylized face as well. I feel like I belong in Vikings or something. Urgh. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Andrea, you don't even use those rules half the time. And no, I don't. That's because I choose to break the rules. I have a very stylized approach to my work, and that means that I don't necessarily follow the realistic landmarks of the face. Instead, I do it more like this, and I will show you. When drawing this woman's face in a stylized method, I'll still put the eyes halfway down the face, but in that lower half, I'm going to give the eyes more presence than the other features of the face. And the jaw, I'm gonna make a bit less emphasized. The ears won't always line up because the ears can seem quite big on a stylized character if you do eyebrow to bottom of nose. Sometimes I'll make them smaller just to be more feminine. Sometimes I'll make them bigger if I want to emphasize childishness. Like I said, I tend to make the eyes more dominant. The mouth, depending on the character, sometimes I will just kind of decide on the expression and let that decide how big the mouth is going to be. As far as placement, it's usually a bit further away from the chin and a bit closer to the nose. And when I'm doing my stylized faces, I won't always line up the corner of the mouth to the pupil in the middle of the eye. Sometimes I'll make it smaller. Sometimes I'll make it really wide. It all depends, and that's just aspects of character design. However, it's still readable as a face because we still operate within this triangle. And because we look at faces so often, and because we have like a very broad / evolved idea of what faces look like, because if you think about it, when you look up in the sky and you see the stars, sometimes you will see faces in the stars, or if you look at the ceiling and the bumps in the ceiling, you will see faces in the ceiling. It's because our eyes are like programmed to see faces and things. So it's a lot more forgiving than you think it is in regards to characterization of a face. Now, that is the landmarks and rules of the face. Rhythm of the face is an entirely other thing. But it is worth learning, and if I don't make a video about it myself, I would definitely recommend that you Google it or maybe find another YouTube video that talks about it because it is really important. This is still readable as a face though because it operates in this magical triangle and our brain is like, oh yeah, it's a face, I see it, face. So there you go. Those are the proportions of a realistic face as well as a stylized face, all based on the landmarks within this magical triangle right here. Mind you, it isn't just the triangle, you also have to take into consideration that the bottom of the chin and the top of the head play a part in those distances. Follow these rules and you'll never go astray again.